You're listening to the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candice Janae. I'm a digital marketing and automation strategist and business coach. I'm the CEO and founder of Epic Fab Girl, where we help Christian women entrepreneurs market and scale their service-based businesses beyond six figures as they grow deeper in their faith. So whether you're a coach, speaker, or a service provider, this podcast will drop gems, bringing you tips, strategies, and stories from experts to help you take your life, business, and relationship with God to the next level. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candice Janae, and literally again, we're bringing to you an incredible woman of God who's going to share with you her journey of building her business to six figures. And I love the episodes when we get to bring in experts to share their stories and women of God that are able to share their journey of faith with you. And so I'm so excited for today's episode. I'm going to introduce you guys to our guest today. So Chanel E. Martin is an award-winning serial entrepreneur. She is passionate about helping brands build wealth and establish authority via media, books, and entrepreneurship. As a master's degree chemical engineer, Chanel applies a systemic approach to business development and has helped thousands of business owners do the same. Known for her mantra, walk in your purpose and let your light shine, Chanel balances her professional achievements with being a dedicated wife and mother of four. Thank you so much for being here, Chanel. Welcome to the Go Getter Podcast. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Candice, for inviting me. I honor you, and I'm grateful to just share what God has to say to your audience.
I love it. I love that we have something in common. I studied mechanical engineering at undergrad, so I had no idea you had an engineering background.
Yes, I did.
Yes, no, listen, I ain't never become a professional engineer, but I got the engineering brain. So I have a special respect, especially for women of color in that, went through studying engineering. And I think it's always so interesting how that engineering mindset can be adapted to entrepreneurship. So I know we talked a lot about in your bio, just the things that you do to help entrepreneurs, and you're a wife and you're a mom, but tell us who you are and kind of your journey of getting started in business. Like, what was the thing that made you say, hey, I think I'm actually going to start a business for myself?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I started entrepreneurship in 2012, officially, if we do not count my Mary Kay days. And, I think almost every entrepreneur has had their taste in network marketing. But the first actual company that I co-founded is a company called Mayavana. It's a hair tech company. I was able to co-found that with myself, our current CEO, Candice Mitchell, and two other ladies, Jessica and Joy. We all met at Georgia Tech. And so we ended up developing an AI technology to help women figure out the best products and processes for their hair. And so by the grace of God, that technology is patented. And my co-founder, Candice, still runs that company to date. And we just announced that we secured a partnership with Ulta, which is huge. So Candice Mitchell Harris, she's married now. If you're listening to this, congratulations. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do with that company. But however, that was my first love, hair care, beauty, love all things. It was by the grace of God that I was able to use my chemical engineering background and marry it with something that I love, which is hair and beauty. But I got a call, right? In 2015, we did an interview. The show no longer exists. It was called The Real. And we were in LA, and I felt like I was having a spiritual awakening, or I was having something. And it's that thing that God starts pulling you into another direction. We had just made our biggest TV debut at the time to date. And I went home and I did a fast for 21 days. And in that fast, this was December of 2015, the Lord told me, he said, basically, your time as an active co-founder is up. I need you to step down and I need you to go help my entrepreneurs. I had no idea what that meant, but I said yes. I talked to my pastors because God started doing something in me from a ministry perspective, really telling me like who I am. That's when God told me, he said, you're a prophet. And it was just all this stuff. And I didn't come from a background where we honored the fivefold ministry gifts. So I didn't even really understand truly what that meant in today's language. So I started talking to my pastors and I joined like a new church that honored those gifts. And I called them. I said, hey, I'm about to step down from my Ivana, and they knew about the company. They're really proud of me. And they were like, are you sure? Go on another fast. And so I did another fast. The church was doing the fast. Now we're at the top of the year, the Daniel fast. I said, okay, well, I'll do the Daniel fast. And the answer did not change. And so I ended up, I want to say by April of 2016, I had stepped down. And so God already knew what he was doing because I had sent my resignation in. I told her at the top of the year, and we did a transition out. And I had no idea I was pregnant with like my second child, and all the ripping and running that I had did with the first one, we just couldn't do with the second one. There just was no way. So here I am pregnant with a baby, and God has completely shifted my life. And he starts talking to me about supernatural things, prophetic things, things that I had to read books and go seek out people on Periscope. Shout out to Periscope. I was all in my Periscope bag and figure out like who I was because I didn't understand. And during that time, God started telling me, he was like, Chanel, I want you to teach my entrepreneurs. He said, if you teach my entrepreneurs, you'll never be broke. And I didn't feel qualified, Candace, because I had just left a company. And I said, well, how is that going to look? So God basically was like, teach people what you know. We had raised at that point over $500,000 in funding. So I started teaching people how to fundraise and wrote like a little ebook and started doing webinars. This was 2016. So I had started the whole digital marketing process. I had no idea what I was doing, but a lot of people were asking me like how we made all the money that we made, how we won all the pitch competitions. And so I just started showing people. And then I had went through, I think at that point, we'd done at least 4 or 5 business accelerator programs as a tech company. So I had a lot of wisdom on the lean startup method. So I started teaching the concepts that I got. And God was showing me, he said, I didn't allow you to go through those things for you not to give back. And so I just did it because I was obedient. I really didn't have a desire. I wasn't really trying to be a business coach or anything like that. I was trying to figure out how to get back in the hair and beauty space. and so long story short, I ended up I wrote my first book, which was 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth. And that book, you can get that book on Amazon. It's still doing phenomenal. I wrote that in 2017. And it was about prayers and stuff I wish I had in my journey as a tech entrepreneur. So shortly after that, I ended up self-publishing, had no idea what I was doing. God, it was really supernatural. God had to tell me everything to do because again, I just was just being obedient. And by 2019, it came back around again. And God was like, I want you to help other people write and publish books. And I was like, really? And so we can get into that later if we have time, but that is how I got into book publishing with my company Beyond the Book Media. It was really just kind of following God's breadcrumbs and just doing what he said.
Man, that was so good. So I have several follow-up questions.
Okay.
The first one is because I want to dig into this a little bit later, but was the book publishing company, is that the thing that helped you make your first 6 figures in business outside of the company that you co-founded with Candace?
Yes, that is. That was the first time I had like done it on my own. We had made 6 figures in revenue with my Ivana. We had raised funding. So it was the tech space is a little bit different than the service business space. But yes, I was a stay-at-home mom and made our first 6 figures not too long after we started the company.
I love it. And I like the term because this is what I used to say when I was younger. I want to be a work from home mom because I always wanted to like work for myself. but have my kids. And I feel like a lot of women be calling themselves stay-at-home moms, but they're not just stay-at-home moms. They be working, like whether they got Mary Kay or something else. It's like, yeah, you stay at home, but like you work from home, and that's beautiful because you get to be with your kids. So that's exciting to see that that was a part of your journey. Now, you talked about so many different things, and I'm just even mind blown thinking about the innovation of the fact that AI is super popular now, but I'm sure in 2012, a lot of people had no idea what that was. I have a background in tech, so like I've been telling people for a while, like AI has been a big deal. Like my first job out of college was at a tech consulting firm, and AI was the big thing of the future in 2014. So it's like so interesting to see that in 2023 and 2024, we're seeing this massive boom in AI, but thinking about, wow, we can use technology, even back in 2012, like I feel like that's such an innovative thing. And then to go from that space to say, you know what, I'm going to step out. One of the things that you said was that you had no idea what that meant when God was telling you, like, okay, I want you to step out. You're a prophet. Run your own thing. Like, it makes me think of this concept of like obeying God, even when it doesn't make sense. And even when it doesn't make sense to other people that are also spiritual, like, how do you navigate those spaces? Because I know you said a key thing, and I really hope the audience doesn't miss that. Like you went on a fast for clarity, but how do you navigate those moments when you're like, this doesn't really make sense, but I think God is telling me this, and then other people are saying different things? How do you stand firm on what God said, even when it doesn't make sense?
That's a really good question. So I think it's twofold for me. I have said this many times before. I think God put something in me that can't tell him no. I think that I got something in me where I'm for the most part obedient to a fault, where it has caused a lot of frustration in relationships, people who do life with me, where they don't understand how I'm moving. That's the nicest way I can say it. But oh man, I'm going to tell you that was probably one of the most key pivotal moments. But when you have been going to God your whole life and God has been showing himself true and you've been praying and asking God and God's been showing up, and it may not have been in that capacity. So my grandmother taught me how to pray, Candace. She taught me the Lord's Prayer. Okay. It was hanging up on her wall. And you know what she said to me? She said, Chanel, you can ask God anything. I don't know if it was my naivety, but when I tell you I believe that woman of God, when she said I could ask God anything, and so because I was so young and that was indoctrinated in me, probably like 3 or 4, I believe that when I ask God a question, he's going to tell me something and it's going to be true. So when you have that as a child, and that's what was told to me, and that's what I believed, I think having a little bit of naivety, I think that's my husband calls me naive sometimes. So I just really, really believe God. And I really believe that I hear God because it's just too many things in my journey that there's no way I would have known to do that. I mean, we'd have to be here for hours if I were to tell you, like, there's just no way, even the idea for my Ivana came to me in a dream. And it's just no way that I come up with this stuff. I just tell myself I'm not that smart. So when you have that base, and then at that time, I hadn't faced that much disappointment in life. So I got to say that. So I still was very like, yes, Jesus, whatever you say. So I didn't have a lot of pushback because I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I think that's another way that God gets us. Sometimes we want to know too much and God won't reveal that to us because we will start calculate. I didn't have nothing to calculate. There was so I was just like, okay, bet. And then I tested the word that I got. And I'm gonna tell you how I tested. I think that's sometimes we don't test if it's God. And we were in a process of selling our house. Now, first of all, when God told me this and I heard it, I had never heard the voice of God so clear in my entire life. So that right there was like, I was like shook. I'm talking about shook, shook, shook. So the fear God was putting me in a way because there was an urgency for me to step in at this point. God's like, you had your little fun. It's time for I have need of you, daughter. So I said, okay. So number one, we got to feel God. All right. Number two, I said, because I heard me and God were having these full-blown conversations, and that is not my dominant prophetic gifting. I'm a dreamer and a visionary. I see. I'm not a dominant hearer. So I'm talking about God is like, I mean, doop, 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 doop. I'm just hearing, and I'm thinking I'm going crazy. I'm so glad that I have enough relationship with God, because I probably would have checked myself into somebody's mental hospital. And it was so much that I said, can you just stop talking to me? It was just so loud. So I thought that I was just hearing stuff. We were selling our house. I said, well, if this is God, when are we going to get an offer on our house? Like, I asked some random question. I heard 10 days from the time you put it on the market. I forgot. I wrote it down. I forgot. Went on about my day. Me and my husband driving in the car, our realtor calls us, says, hey, we got an offer. Then it clicked. I said, Chris, I pull up the phone. I started counting the days. I said, oh my gosh, that's 10 days. And that was all she wrote. I said, there is no way I could have known that. And I said, look, I wrote it there. 10 days. Candace, that was all she wrote. And so I think sometimes what we do as believers, as men and women of God, as faith-filled entrepreneurs, we forget the times when God has shown up true to what he said he would do. You got to pull on that thing, and you got to take that. Like, God's not in the business of misleading you or lying to you or telling you to do something that's not true. You have to pull on that. So every time I have to make a decision, a God said decision, I pull on the many times that God said, and he actually fulfilled what he said it would do. So that's how I navigate.
Man, when I say this is so good, because it's such confirmation, because I literally have been talking about this a lot lately. I specifically went live on TikTok recently. And one of the things that I was talking about, you know how people be talking about girl math. And what I specifically said is, like, we be trying to calculate stuff that we have no business trying to calculate. This is God's job. God has complex equations and stuff that he got figured out already when it comes to your life. And you over here trying to do math and calculate how it's going to work itself out, when God's only real requirement of you is to be obedient, right? Like, to what he said. And the other thing I talked a lot about is, like, we all have history with God, and we got to lean on that. That's why, even for me, it's like, even though I've been through some of the craziest, wildest, most bizarre situations, I can point to every moment that God came through in spite of, right? And so, like you said, we can literally lean on God and depend and make decisions on what God said. So I love it that you said, when I have to make these God said decisions, like, we have to start moving on that, especially as believers. And, the other thing I wanted to hit on really quickly before I transition is, you talked about disappointment, right? Like, you hadn't yet gotten to the point of experiencing so much disappointment in life where your expectation was still high. And the thing that God told me about 2024, he told me it was 3 words. First, it's a crossover year for everybody. Like, we crossing over from where we were into the promise, very similar to Joshua 3, all of the things where the children of Israel are transitioning into the promised land as they're crossing over the Jordan River. But the other 2 words were joy and expectation. And when we think about being in expectation, I think it's so important, because it's almost like that's literally what faith is. Like, you should expect the things that you're believing, right? You should expect the things that you're praying for. And the thing that God told me was that 2023 was a year where the enemy tried to use disappointment to literally rob us of our expectation. I said, oh, Lord. Okay. So just addressing the fact that, yes, disappointment happens, but God is still good and he's still faithful. If you've learned anything from this podcast, I know you're going to love the Go Getter Confidential Click at gogettermembership.com. It's a global membership community for Christian women entrepreneurs to connect, build wildly profitable service-based businesses, and grow their faith. So whether you're just getting started with an idea or you already have an established brand and you want to lay the foundation for 6-figure income, the Go Getter membership is just what you need. With expert masterclasses, monthly prayer, and tons of courses and downloads, your business will be better because of it. Entrepreneurship isn't easy, but this community will help you go from feeling stuck to clear and motivated. Join today at gogettermembership.com and save 50% off your first 3 months when you use code podcast at checkout. We'll see you inside. Now, one of the things you also said was that when you got started to start building your business and start launching out on your own, because everybody was asking you about, okay, how did you guys pitch? How did you learn how to do all of that? Then you kind of started with what you knew. And I think that's a really major nugget that those who are listening should definitely tune into, because you started with what you had and leveraged that knowledge. But you said you didn't feel qualified. So talk to me about, what were those feelings like? I'm not feeling qualified. How did you navigate those feelings? And how did you still kind of continue to press on and actually charge for your services, even when you did not feel qualified, though your data on the facts on paper, it made like on paper you was qualified?
Yeah. Okay. So what's funny about this is even before I had stepped down, people had been asking me. My good friend Gabrielle, Strawberry Curls, we've been friends for quite some time. And she was like, you need to teach this. This is years. When I think I ended up meeting her somewhere around 2014 or 2013. And she just was really trying to push me to be like this infopreneur. And I was like, I wanted to keep myself in a box of beauty because that's what I loved and that's what I knew. Well, I'm gonna tell you what happened. I wanted to buy a couch. I have told this story. This is my honest to God truth. I wanted to buy a couch. The couch was I call them the couch, convertible couch that you could let out to a bed. It had a memory foam mattress. I go to my husband, say, hey, it would be cool. We can get a couch. We're about to have another baby. We can have guests. It'll give us extra space, extra place. He looks at me and he says, you go buy the couch. I said, me? Wow. At this point, and again, I thank God for him because he pushed me into this digital space. So he said, how? And God would, it's like God using the donkey to tell the man, you know what I mean? It's like God would not call my husband a donkey. I'm called a couch to donkey. God uses something to steer you in the right direction. I think sometimes we miss that. So I had to make a choice. How bad do I want this couch? I said, well, these folks have been asking me about pitching and I really wanted this couch. I don't even know. I think God just put a strong desire for a couch in me. And so I said, well, the couch is $1,000. I could teach people how to do fundraise. And I just if I sell this course at $50, I only need 20 people to buy. I said, I can get 20 people to pay $50. So I did me a little video. I sent out emails. I posted on social media and I said, hey, I'm doing this fundraising webinar. Y'all jump in, small business funding. And sure enough, I sold that class out and I had over $1,000 cash to buy this couch. Okay. Y'all see how much freedom is in that? And I remember my pregnant self telling my husband, take me to the furniture store. And the man comes up to me. I'm being real with y'all, right? The man comes up to me and said, would y'all like to finance? I said, no. And I pulled out my card and swiped my debit card to pay for that couch cash. We used to finance all our furniture at that point. I had never not financed anything. But when I tell you there was a sense of freedom that was associated with how quickly I made that $1,000, y'all, and that I didn't have to depend on my husband, he gave me freedom in that moment. And you said not feeling qualified. Well, I'm going to tell you why I didn't feel qualified. I didn't feel qualified because I'm in the tech space. My other skinned counterparts were raising millions of dollars. So I felt like my little $500,000, I wasn't doing enough. If I could teach you how to raise millions, then I was not good enough. And that it wasn't, I set some extremely high bar, Candace, that didn't even make sense because you got people who can't even raise $5 And we had 2 successful crowdfunding campaigns. We'd won a bunch of pitch competitions. We had did a successful friends and family raise. Like we had on, and it was true. It was legit. It wasn't Googleable information. I could tell you exactly what we did step by step. I'm an engineer. So my gift is taking what I do, and this is a chemical engineer. We are process engineers, actually. My gift is taking what something is and putting a process to it so you can get the desired outcome as efficiently as possible. So because this stuff is trapped in my brain, once I learn something, I can teach it and I can teach it well. But I just, chop that up to, I'm just an engineer, but I was no longer, I did work in a plant and work in the industry, and it taught me a lot. And so I had to make a choice. Once I found out that people loved the course and folks was actually winning pitch competitions and raising funding from the information that I received, and this was after. Some of y'all are looking for the confidence before. I didn't get the confidence till after, because I was like, what if it don't work? How many of y'all have said that? Oh, what if I share this and it don't work? And they call me a scammer and I'm not, I had all those thoughts, but listen, it was Operation Couch on Deck. Okay. So honestly, Candace, that's my honest truth. I wish I had some sort of way more spiritual answer, but really it was about a couch.
Listen, but the Bible talks about how the Lord orders our footsteps. And I feel like, and even in all the things that you've been saying, I feel like one of the things that keeps ringing in my head is how God talks about all things work together for the good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. So it's like, even the process mindset that you got from being, studying engineering, and then even the exposure you got to, from having the dream and then starting the hair tech company, and then having access to that information to be able to apply it in ways that would help other people. Like, it's just so incredible to see. And I think sometimes, especially for those who are listening, sometimes we can be so like, feel like we're lost and don't know what to do next. But looking back, we're like, oh, God was leading me the whole time. But it's like, okay to be confused. Like, and it's okay when God is telling you to go down a certain path and you're not really certain what that's going to look like, and just following him in that. Let's talk about the journey to actually getting to 6 figures with that business. So it sounds like you started out, first of all, the fact that you were in the digital product world back in 2015, like that's a big deal in and of itself. But I know you were charging $50 for that first thing. How did you, like, what were you selling to get you to 6 figures? Did you start raising prices, or were you still kind of going after the low price stuff and just meeting a bunch of people? So like, I want to know like what you were selling, what the price points and things were.
Yeah, so that's a phenomenal question. So back in 2016 when I did the fundraising course, that was under my consulting company. My husband, look, Chris, we just gonna shout out to Chris. He saw something to me that I did not see in myself. He said I was sitting on the phone telling people what to do all the time for free. He made me get a consulting company. He said, you're gonna stop this. And I still didn't want to charge. So I still actually own that. It's my oldest business today. Well, my second oldest, I own Panther Claw Consulting. So it was my little, how if I wanted to go make a little chump change, I would just go out there and be like, who want a strategy session? Charging $99. I just did that. And I did some coaching a little bit just because people asked me. So I need you to understand, like, a lot of the stuff came in the earlier days before I actually made my first 6 figures. I just was having babies and at home and figuring out what life was, because the Lord had told me to step down from my Ivana, and I had made that my identity. Yeah, that's probably another reason. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. So I had to go relearn who I was outside of like being in the media and tech, and I wasn't an engineer. Like, who was I with all of those things stripped away? So that's what I was doing. And God allowed me to make money in the process. But in 2019, I was trying to write my second book and I struggled, Candace. I really did. And I remember how I wrote my first book in 30 days, and I did it because I did a prayer challenge. And I said, what if I just create a challenge? What if I just pull like 10 people? We just keep each other accountable. We finish our books in like 2 weeks. Because I was like, I can finish this in 2 weeks. And I was actually getting ready to go back in the hair industry. I'm gonna be honest. I had told God, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this. I'm going back to hair industry. And I was about to start like this wig subscription program. This is in 2019. And the Lord said, no, write my other book first. Like, so I was like, oh, okay, God, I'll write your book before I go back in the hair industry. So that's when I started, which is the journal you see back there is God Bless the Scribe. It ended up turning to a journal. I thought it was a book. It was a journal, a workbook that I was actually creating. I didn't know. And I was struggling, Candace. I couldn't figure out what to do. I was having all kind of writer's block. I said, if I can get like 10 people together and we can write our books. Of course, I know that 2019 was like the day the gates of heaven opened and commissioned everybody to be writers because I had 300 people in that group in no time. Exactly. So then we started doing these writing challenges, which we still do them to date, actually, 5 years later, where we help people finish their books in 21 days. We've been doing, that's how they started. So I didn't even get to write my book, Candace, because everybody kept asking me questions. So I was there organizing. I didn't know what to do with all these people. I was like, where are these people? God, what do I do with these people? So I said, oh, I'm going to get y'all some resources. So I opened a group up, Candace, for other publishers to come in, like pay me like $1,000 and you come pitch this. And people made bank off of those people because they was all hungry. When I tell you, I wish I knew what I knew. I wouldn't have did that. But anyways, God let me feel my way around and miss out on my coins. So then it was a few people, they were like, I don't want them. I want you. And I was like, me? They said, I want you to publish my book. One of them was my really good friend, Lindsay Walker. She said, well, you prophesied the book, so you got to publish it. I was like, she about begged me. And I don't think I hardly charged her anything for that book. I was like, okay. And then I had two other clients. They went through the program. They was like, no, you got to publish it. So these three forced me into creating a publishing arm of Beyond the Book Media. I thought I was just going to be a marketing resource to help connect people with sources. So I joined. Beyond the Book Media is 3 months old. The Lord tells me to join TSP, the mastermind, in 2019. Okay. I didn't know how much any of that was going to cost, but I heard before I even stepped foot in the conference, he said, you're going to go to this conference, you're going to sign up for whatever program they got. So I'm sitting there the whole conference, stomaching knots, like, Lord, how this stuff look high? Or how much this gonna cost? And at the time, it was only, look, I say only, but that was a lot of money. At the time, it was $1,500 a month. I think I had $1,800 in my bank account. And because I heard God say it, he told me before I came ready. I said, well, I just empty out my bank account. And so I ended up signing up, and one of the former coaches, she looks at my products and services. This is why y'all got to get a coach. Y'all need to sign up for Candace's programs. Y'all need to get a coach, because I still was on the fence. I still was trying to charge a $30 a month program with one of my packages.
Listen, for those who can't see the video, I'm stressed thinking about this $30, because that's what a whole bunch of women be wanting to do. They want to take all the good information that God gave them, that it took forever to learn, and give it away for pennies. But continue.
Yes, that's what I wanted. I was like, oh, because again, I wasn't serious. I think, y'all, I wasn't serious. So one of my coaches, she was like, yeah, you really need to sell something at 1,000 after the challenge. Like, you can't sell nothing for lower than 1,000 after this challenge. So I remember my friends came over, they watched my kids, and I went and locked myself into the room and I prayed. I was like, God, show me my $1,000 product, because I don't know what it is. So I created this, and still God probably only showed me at the level that I can handle, because it was still a third of what it should have been. So I launched a self-publisher's package. I had no idea if it would work. I remember I don't even know how to put a funnel for this. Then lo and behold, I go on Facebook, someone's like, steal my publishing funnel. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I signed up and got look, I used every email, their swipe files. I changed the name, and I learned. I had signed up for Kartra. I had to sit down there and I learned how to build out a whole funnel outside of a challenge. Because before, the challenges were just, we didn't have a real funnel. It was just, we're going to do this challenge. Hey, buy this if you want to. All right, bet, we done. So I ended up making, from that challenge, y'all, I made $7,000. Exactly.
That is incredible. Like, especially on the first shot, like that's good.
Get you some coaching, y'all. Get you some coaching. It was through coaching. So that was in July. So I joined CSP Mastermind in June. So we really started making money in July, right? And then by the end of the year, I had made 40,000. That was my first, that was like my first time really. And I was like, wow, 40,000. Like that was like $40,000 in that short, in like what, 5 months? I was like, oh man. But I was like, wait, after we did my account, after my accountant like ran me my bookkeeping, I said, I can't really do nothing with no 40,000. Like, where did the 40,000 go? What happened to it? And then that's when
Listen, that part, that's what
yeah,
people
I
don't
was
know
like,
about entrepreneurship. It costs everything expensive.
so you asked me how we got to six figures. Well, I went to look, shout out to TSP. That's why you got to have coaching. I know you
Listen, while
provide
you
coaching.
dropping it, make sure that they know to mention your name if they
Oh. Yeah, look, you can mention my name if
okay.
you hear it. But I know, Candace, that you have a coaching program specifically designed for women. I'm just sharing what
Yeah.
I attended. And I know, Candace, like y'all sign
Yeah,
up
no, I
for.
love the TSP community too, so it's
So
amazing.
yeah, so I'm just sharing you. It's not necessarily who, it's the
Yeah,
fact that I got coaching and that I got training and I was equipped.
yeah.
So for me, who God called me to at that time was TSP. So I go to TSP, I go to one of the conferences, game plan. All right. Now I'm like pregnant with baby number 4, waddled up in game plan, and Markel Russell starts talking about products and services and charging. And then a light bulb goes off. And I said, I'm gonna ask a question. I got up there and asked the question. My friend came in, she recorded it. And I realized that I needed to triple my prices. So you know what I did? I immediately that day during that conference, I did an email that said $9.97 price tag is ending in 5 days, last chance. And the price went up to $29.97. And by the end of that year, by that November, we had made, this was in January, by that November, we had made 6 figures. That is how I got there.
Listen, I love that because one of the things I try to teach so often is that to get to six figures, a lot of times you don't have to do extra work. Like you can just by raising your prices, you can get there quicker. And like even I used to charge, listen, I used to be doing, oh, $60 session here, $100 session here. And then in 2020, when I decided to raise my prices, I put together a $7,500 program. I was so nervous about it. I didn't know if people were going to buy. But my first $31,000 launch, I got one person to buy a $10,500 thing, another person to buy the same program for $6,500 because they paid in full. So it was two of them that paid that, and one person to pay $7,500. And one of the things I like to say is like, we all know 4 people. It took 4 people for me to make $31,000. But imagine if I had only sold, that for $1,000, I would have only made 4,000 versus the 31, right? So that like I don't want y'all to miss that important nugget that she was able to get there by doing the same work, but just raising her prices.
What I did was I also redefined the value. That service, and I actually got that advice. That's why y'all need to go to conferences, get in the rooms, y'all, because I pray, Candace, that they're getting the wisdom that I'm sharing. Like this was not, I know as people of faith, we just think all we need is us and Jesus. The Lord gonna tell us everything. Baby, if the Lord was going to tell you everything, you'd already have your 6, 7, 8, 9 figures. So the Lord will send you because he puts gifts and talents in all of us. He's going to send you to the people that he has assigned and appointed that have mastered an area that you need in. That's how they meet purpose on earth. So like you have to go and find those people. So that means you're going to have to go to the conferences. You're going to have to get the coaching. You're going to have to get the accountability, because I just feel like we have to break this stigma of I can hear God all by myself. And if God ain't said it, yes, God will tell you, but God will also lead you to go get wisdom. And so what Markel Russell, he defined, and hopefully I'm not butchering this up, but he talked about DIY, done for you and done with you. And so I realized that we were doing a done with you service. So what was happening was the client was messing up on some parts of it. So I thought that I could charge less because we weren't doing it all. but really I was having way more problems. I was having to talk them through them. I was having to coach them. And for some, I said, let me just do this for y'all. Because people were having trouble with the actually uploading to Amazon. I thought that was the easy part. I was like, oh, we'll just give you all your stuff and you go upload it. People were having issue uploading stuff to Amazon. So that's why I was like, oh, that's why I can charge $1,000. No, every last person had struggled, Candace. Every last person, because the person that was going to pay for my services probably would have just paid for the whole package had it been available, because they didn't want to go DIY none of it. That was a mindset issue. So I said, I'm doing away with this. You upload, you do, and we are going to become full service done for you. So once we became full service done for you, just us adding, uploading for you, that actually made sense for us, because if there was errors, our team could go fix it quickly. You didn't get the frustration. You would email us about, oh, the book's fine. And then I don't know if it's your user error or if it was our error. So we were able to streamline our process, charge more, and have more perceived value as more like a white glove service, just by adding publishing. And when I say you adding publishing, us actually uploading the book, it only added maybe an extra 3 hours of work to our team. So I had let's say I'm paying someone $20 an hour. We're looking at, because we have to know these numbers, we're looking at maybe $60 to $100 extra in overhead that I might have to pay to add that extra value add. So hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a ton of sense. This episode has been packed with so many gems. One of the things I'm thinking of, and this is a lightning round question before we close out, is what would you say is like the number one tip you have for marketing high ticket services?
So I'll tell you what has worked for us for marketing high ticket services. Really putting people into a funnel. I struggle with getting people to opt immediately into a high ticket service. So what we were able to streamline was, I'll give you an example with our publishing company. We were able to get you into a free challenge. Then we sell you into a boot camp, a writing boot camp, which actually helps us because now you're actually finishing your manuscript. So we sell that for $9.97. Then from that, after you finish the 21 days, we sell you a higher end, anywhere from $3,500 to $10,000 publishing package. So following that process, it allowed us to develop know, like, and trust. And because we run ads to get people into our challenges, it really helped us to warm up a cold audience, so that we're not just posting on social media, just free willy-nilly, trying to pray that, if someone shares or someone sees it that needs our services. And then it actually gave me my time back, because I was just joking with my friend. I was like, man, I don't hardly post on my personal social media, but I got an ad running. I said, I got an ad running, So that's my best advice that has worked for us.
Okay, I got another question. What was the mindset? What was the mindset shift to be able to charge $10,000? Because I think there's somebody listening that is like, "Girl, $10,000, I could never." So, what was that mindset shift like?
Okay, I'm trying to. The mindset shift to charge $10,000 is, y'all, I got 4 kids, and my time is valuable. And if I can do almost the same amount of work and make more money, then I'm going to do that. And actually, I need to push those 5-figure ticket offers even more than I have been pushing them, because y'all, our time is valuable. And once you've proven yourself, Beyond Book Media is turning 5 this year, and we have receipts upon receipts upon receipts. Baby, it's my season. It's my time. Like, we're probably about to just shift to really focusing on high ticket, because that brings in the most value and is the most adequate use of my time in this season of my life.
Man, so good. So, what do you tell the woman who's afraid of going after her next big thing?
I would say to this woman, make sure it's a God thing and not just a big thing. Because if it's a God things are always big things. And if it's a God thing, then everything you need will be given to you along your journey. And sometimes we have, with social media, and Kent, you have a phenomenal social media following and page, we might look at you and say, you know what, I'm going to go do everything Candace is doing. But that's for Candace to do. that may not be what God calls you to do. God may want to get you there a different way. And so we have to be mindful of going after the God thing and going after the God steps so that we don't get caught up trying to imitate the oil of someone else that we don't got for that. And so when you do that, that confidence will come with it, that courage will come with it. Because if you are trying to say, let's say you like, you know what, I want to blow up on social media, or I want to do this or that, whatever someone else has done, and you feel like you can do that too, you get to doing that, then you realize, wait, this is way more work than I thought it was. I don't got the capacity. I don't even understand how he or she does all that. God, you said, God's like, I didn't tell you to do it that way. So go after the God thing, and the God thing will be the big thing.
So good. I asked that question on every episode, and that's the first time we got it like that. So I appreciate that so much. And where can we stay connected with you online?
Of course. So I am Chanel E. Martin on everything that there is to have. Chanel E. Martin on everything, and we can connect there. And you'll see I have a bunch of other brands and stuff that I manage, and you'll see everything if you connect with me there. But thank you so much, Candace, for this.
Thank you so much. This has been so incredible. Y'all, like, I know y'all enjoyed this episode. So make sure y'all show Chanel some love on social media. And we are always so grateful for y'all tuning in for another episode of the Go Getter Podcast. We will see you again next week. And we thank you for being here. I pray that you have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing rest of your week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Go Getter Podcast. If you love this conversation, you're going to love the panels and workshops that are at Go Getter Conference. It's our premier event of the year, and it happens annually. It's going to help you market and monetize your God-given ideas and connect with women from across the globe. Head over to gogetterconference.com to check it out right now. And just for staying until the end of this episode, we have a special gift for you, the Go Getter Plan and Profit Workbook. This workbook is going to help you plan your income for the year. So head to gogetterpodcast.com/plan and profit to get your copy. And don't forget to drop a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next episode of the Go Getter Podcast.